Today is day 3 of my 7-day water only fast. And when I say water only, I mean water only. No black coffee, no tea, no lemon in the water, no juice, no protein shakes, and no added electrolytes. Just reverse osmosis water, which is what I use since I have a house system that does that, or distilled water, rest, and prayer. After yesterday's episode, I edited it, and then I went to the second Bible study that I usually go to on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. I figured out pretty quickly about halfway there that I probably really shouldn't be driving. I mean, I had already had a little bit of like a tiredness and noticing that my driving skills were not quite up to par earlier in the day. And it is definitely recommended to not drive during a fast, but I did anyway. And so on my way there, I think my observational skills were massively lacking because I'm pretty sure I pulled out right in front of a large work truck. And fortunately, they didn't make me like pay for that, because a lot of times people will like come right up on your bumper, and he just kind of stayed really far back. So I'm like, yeah, I think I cut that guy off. Like it was stupid. It was absolutely stupid. And if I were him, I'd have stayed away from me too. But I went to the Bible study and it was done about 8 o'clock. And on the way home, all I could do was pray that I was going to get home safely, because I was in no condition to drive. I mean, during the Bible study, I was like this. I didn't even open my Bible. I just watched and listened instead of like trying to track with anything that they were doing like physically, because I just couldn't do it. And so by the time I got home, I walked in the house and I went straight to bed. I went to bed at 8:15. Again, that's still a little bit later than my preferred of 7:30, but that always happens to me on Tuesday nights. I usually get to bed about 8, but of course on the day where I was like, I am so ready to be home, it ran longer. But it was really, really good information, and I am so glad that I went, because I always get something out of these. So as of right now, it's just under 72 hours since my last meal. And typically what happens to me on when I do a 2-day fast, because that's all I've ever done before is a 2-day fast. It's really more than 2 days, because I will stop eating at like 7 o'clock at night, and then I will go 2 full days and nights, and then the third morning is when I would break my fast. And usually the way that it works is I wake up on that third morning completely nauseated at like 3 a.m. Nausea wakes me up at 3 a.m. and I'm like, ugh. So I like hightail it, if that's even possible, but I hightail it into the kitchen and I grab a perfectly ripe, most amazing in my life tasting banana. And about 20 minutes later, I'm fine. Well, sadly, like clockwork. I mean, it appears that my body, like with this particular thing, you could pretty much set a clock to when this happens to me, because I got a nice solid 3 beautifully heavy hours of sleep last night. And then at about 11:30, I woke up. And I woke up with that horrible nausea that I always experience the morning of day 3. What's interesting to me is that normally I stop eating about 7 o'clock. But in this case, it was 3:45, 4 o'clock that I stopped eating, and my nausea shifted back the exact right hours. So it seems that at the 54-hour mark, my body is like, no more. You haven't given me food in more than 2 days, and now I'm gonna make you pay. But this time around, Going to grab a banana was not an option for me for 2 reasons, actually. First and foremost, I'm doing a 7-day fast, and I can't eat a banana to get the nausea to go away. If I eat the banana, that stops my fast. The second, and probably the most prevalent reason I couldn't go grab a banana is I don't actually have any right now. I was not preparing to break my fast on the morning of day 3 with a banana, so I didn't. And I didn't buy any, and so we don't have any on hand, and so, you know, SOL on that one. So I just kept praying, please let this nausea subside. And more than just getting it to subside, I was praying that I wouldn't throw up, because the one clear, true marker that I do know that is super like, your fast stops, is if you throw up. And I want to do the whole 7 days. I mean, I've already put in the work ahead of time. I've suffered for the first couple of days. It's not been terrible, but it's not been amazing. Nobody wants to feel like this. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to ride this out to the end. I'm a super challenge driven person, so that's a factor. And then also being able to share everything that goes on, at least for me, during these 7 days, and then the refeeding period afterwards, I want to be able to cover that. I want to be able to share it so that when you go looking for a fasting video, you can find the information that you're looking for. Because I've noticed that when I've gone looking for like fasting, like testimonials, so to speak, first of all, almost all of them are men. So we are definitely missing out on the women's like daily, like, let me know what happens. And the men's experience is not necessarily exactly the same as a woman, and then especially like a perimenopausal 50-year-old woman. So I want to be able to give you everything that I experience. Now, everybody's experiences can be a little bit different, but I want to let you know at least how it was for me and what you might expect if you were to do something similar. The other thing is, I notice with these fasting videos is they usually do them all in one day. Like it'll be one video for the whole fast and they just kind of skip to the highlights of things. And I don't necessarily feel like I'm getting like true and correct, real, full information. I know we don't put out videos so that we can get clicks. You're not going to get that here. What you're going to get is who we are and what we experience and how we think. And we're not going to sugarcoat anything or make things look like something it's not when we do these. And I personally don't really care for watching people that are full of crap. So I try not to be full of crap. There is a slight workaround that you can do if you were to throw up in the middle of your fast. And that is to drink some vegetable broth until you're settled and you stop throwing up. The problem is that the vegetable broth that they have on the market anywhere includes 2 things that you definitely do not want to be having during your fast. And that is salt. And the other thing often you will see in vegetable broth is sugar. So you don't want to be having salt and sugar. You want the broth and the broth only. And unfortunately, this was not an option for me because I actually didn't buy anything to make the broth and I didn't have any on hand. And so that kind of makes it very difficult to get up in the middle of the night and start drinking vegetable broth to modify the fast until I can like feel better, stop throwing up, and then go back into the water, which I didn't want to do anyway. I want to do it I want to do it the right way the full time. I want to do this the right way. And I want to receive all of the benefits of the full 7 days. After today, or during today, or at some point, somewhere between days 3 and 4, you start to enter that really heavy state of autophagy, which is what heals your body. And the reason that I'm primarily doing this is for healing in my body, very much attached to my feet that hurt me all the time with my plantar fasciitis in both feet, and reducing the inflammation that is coming from all of this like excess fat that I'm carrying around my organs that sends off inflammatory things into your system that causes all sorts of other problems. Fortunately, my mom was going to the store earlier this morning, and so she asked me if I wanted her to pick up the items that I would need to make broth. So my plan is she brought me what I need, which is I had onion, I had garlic, I have rosemary, I have thyme. What I didn't have was some ginger and some onions. And this is the way that I want to make the broth. It's what is called an immunity broth, which I got from Ramses Bravo, who is the one of the chefs up at the True North Health Center in Northern California that does monitored on-site fasting. And so that's the broth I want to have on hand. So thank you, Mom, for going to go get that for me while you were out. And I might actually make her taste it so that she could tell me what she thinks of it, because it's probably going to be a shock with not having any salt in it. But why not? I need to make it just in case anyway, so I'm prepared. I'm hopefully going to be prepared for no good reason, and then I can just in a few days use it in a soup and, you know, have all the nutrition that comes with that. Fortunately, after about 3.5 hours of suffering with this nausea, which is not my favorite for sure, it did subside. And so I started feeling nauseated about 11:30. It subsided about 3 a.m. And then from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., I slept. But it's that kind of sleep where you're kind of awake and then asleep and then awake and then asleep, and then it's not restorative at all. But par for the course, totally expected. Insomnia is expected, nausea is expected, headaches are expected, you know, so totally normal at this point. I did get up about 6 a.m. and drag my butt into the shower. Now, of all the stuff that I've watched, I have never but once heard that maybe you shouldn't shower during fasting. And it was Chef AJ, if you know who Chef AJ is. She was talking to Ramses Bravo, the chef, and she was just having a conversation with him, and she said something about, well, yeah, because you can't fast you can't fast. Can't think. You can't shower during a fast. And I thought, that is weird. I have never heard that. But when I was in the shower this morning, I was thinking, maybe that's not a bad idea. Because it was, okay, so TMI, I don't know. But when I take a shower, I rinse out my hair. I don't even use shampoo or conditioner. We can cover that when I get to hygiene. But I was rinsing out my hair really good. And then normally I wash my body and then I sit down to brush my teeth. Yes, I brush my teeth in the shower. I do it while I'm sitting. I feel like my teeth are cleaner. I don't know what that's all about. But as I was rinsing out my hair, I hadn't even gotten to like washing off my body. All I could think is, I want to sit down. I really want to sit down. And I noticed that this morning I could handle the water a little bit less hot than normal. And I don't take a particularly hot shower, but I did need it a little bit more just on the warm side rather than the more hot side this morning. And so I got out of the shower. Normally I like flip my head over and like kind of ruffle my hair a little bit because I don't brush my hair either. You could probably see that with the bird's nest I've got going on. I do au naturel as much as possible around here. Anyway, let alone during a fast. But I could barely flip my head over with the like force that I normally flip my head over. And I thought, wow, we are not doing well here right now. But again, kind of to be expected. I had always known that day 3 was going to be a challenge for me. I just knew it. Like, I didn't know why I knew it other than waking up nauseated and grabbing a banana normally. But I just kind of knew it. And then you always hear, day 4, you feel amazing. So I'm thinking, day 3 is not going to be so amazing. And it's not. So then I finally was able to do everything I need to do, get dressed. I did hop on the scale at one point, and I was at 169.5 today, which is about a half a pound less than it was yesterday. So I've lost a grand total of 2.5 pounds so far, which at this point is probably mostly, if not all, water and glycogen. And if you're curious about the glycogen, I kind of covered that on day 1. It wasn't the most exhaustive covering it that could be done, but I gave you a basic explanation of what that is and how it affects the fast. But I got dressed and I came out, and the best way that I can use to describe what it felt like when I got up this morning is, you know, when you have the flu and just the feeling in your body is you're like, I am so tired. I have no energy whatsoever. All I want to do is find a nice cushy couch where I can kind of like prop myself up on one portion, like maybe a love seat, and then like kind of throw my leg out some really random strange way and just like relax on the cushy, fluffy support of the couch and do nothing else. That is how I felt when I got up this morning. Strangely enough, I didn't actually do that. I came into here, which we call the cave, and cameraman, who is my partner in crime on this channel and does the podcast with me, he was sitting at his computer, and I got into my chair because I always drag my chair in here because he refuses to use my chair and I refuse to use his. So I sat down in my chair that I typically edit from and just kind of like blood. And I said, okay, you need to entertain me because I don't have any energy for anything else. And you know, here I'm sipping water the whole time because I'm thinking like, I know I need the water, even though this water does not taste good. I am not enjoying it. It is not doing anything for me in the moment that is making me feel better, but I know I need it. So I'm continuing to sip the water. And so, yeah, he entertained me. He actually started editing the podcast we did a couple days ago that is part of this series, essentially, because we were talking about my mania with food and losing weight and fasting and all that good stuff. And so a couple of the other things that I am experiencing are to be expected. It is 74 degrees in here, and I'm a little on the cold side. I mean, I literally had a jacket on and just took it off to be able to record. I mean, I guess I could have left it on, but I just didn't. And what is the other thing? Let me check my notes. I always have notes. Let's see. I know I had two things here. Oh, and the other thing is I have a taste in my mouth that is not pleasant. Dr. Goldhammer says it'll taste like something crawled in your mouth and died. I wouldn't necessarily say that at this point it's that bad, but it's a little bitter, a little metallic, and almost salty. Now, some more TMI. I always have postnasal drip, and that is yeah, just sniffed. That actually reminded me that I have actually blown my nose just a little bit. It's like watering just a little bit today too, which I think might be the whole Dr. Goldhammer says you might have discharges. And I was like, what are discharges? Oh, I don't want any discharges. Okay, so maybe that's what he means. I've got a little tiny bit of a runny nose, but I do always have postnasal drip, probably from allergies, seasonal allergies. So unfortunately, if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to tell you because I'm not going to be that gross right now, but it's always there, and that can cause you to have a little taste of saltiness in your mouth, unfortunately. So mouth doesn't taste amazing. But the one strange thing I noticed last night as I was driving home and yawning up a storm, don't be surprised if I do it now because I said the word yawning, and don't be surprised if you do it either because let me tell you, you thought COVID was communicable. Just think about yawning and you'll probably do it. Anyways, as I was driving home, when I would yawn and I would open my mouth wide to yawn because I was so tired, it was those huge ones, which I'm sure you're probably wishing I'm not talking about by now because you probably yawned 3 times already. When I opened up my mouth wide, where my wisdom teeth would be, like most people, there's like a big gap back there. And in the cheeks that are right next to it on the inside, it feels like I'm kind of like pulling on tight skin in those areas, which, and I'm still experiencing it now. I'm thinking that probably has something to do with the little bit of dehydrated state that I'm in, which I still haven't really looked up, but I don't understand why, if you're still drinking so much water, why you would be dehydrated. But apparently it's par for the course. You just have dehydration when you do a fast, no matter how much you drink. I think something has to do with the way that you have fluid in your foods, because we get 20 to 30% of our hydration from our foods. And I'm thinking that this is just my hypothesis, but I'm thinking that when you eat the foods, it absorbs into your system a little bit differently than the fluids you drink. That's my best guess. Around 10 a.m. though, as I was sitting here with cameraman while he was entertaining me with his editing, I did notice my energy level start to pick up. And right now it is 100 times better than it was this morning. But by no means am I feeling at all normal. So today I asked my husband to stop and get unhealthy, super tasty pizza for everybody else that lives here on his way home from work. I had planned for that because I knew there was zero chance I would be doing anything in the kitchen. Last night I made them pasta with pesto. Now the pesto comes from Costco because Costco has the most amazing pesto I've ever had in my life, and unfortunately don't eat anymore because it's got cheese in it, but it's tasty. And I boiled up some macaroni. So I mean, when I say made, I barely put together and then left. So he's bringing pizza tonight, so I don't have to worry about that. So I'll be very loungy all this afternoon. I did want to cover the changes in my personal care hygiene products today. But as I stated in yesterday's episode, I wasn't sure if I would have enough energy to do so. And true to form, I do not. So hopefully tomorrow proves to be exactly what I've always heard about day 4, and that I will feel amazing and I will be able to cover that then. See you next time.